So we have our back end set up properly, and now it's time to modify our front end to display movie posters if they exist. So I'm looking at the front end source code, and I'm looking at onemoviegraphql.js. And the first thing I'm going to do is add poster to my GraphQL query. And that's as simple as typing poster, now that the back end is set up properly. And the next thing I have to do is to come down to the render part and actually display that poster, but only if it exists. So I'll do it right after the title. Don't do it down inside of this float part because you'll screw up your floats. So I'll put it right here after the title. And what I'm going to do is do a check. Movie.poster is not exactly equal to an empty string. Then the double ampersand, then the parentheses. And if those conditions are met, in other words, if movie.poster has some value, then I'll display the image. And I'll do it in a div. I'll just wrap it in a div. And the syntax for displaying the image is pretty straightforward. Image source equals. And it's going to, of course, be like this because I'm going to use a JavaScript template. And the URL I got straight from the documentation for the API, which is really easy to find. And it goes like this. HTTP : and I'll put it HTTPS : image.tmdb.org, and then a slash, and then T, and then a slash, and then P, and then slash W. How many pixels wide do you want this to be? And I'll put 200. And when we get the value back from the remote API, it already has the slash that would come after W200. So all I have to put is $, then curly brackets, movie.poster. And outside of that entire curly bracket, I give it an alt tag, alt equals poster. And if you don't, React will complain and say it's not correct. It'll give you a warning. And then close it. Now you would think that this would be enough. So let's make sure everything compiled. And it did. And let's go back to our web browser. Here we are. And I'll click on GraphQL. And I'll click on, say, The Princess Bride. Perfect. No errors. There's no image. But I expected that because we need to actually make a change to this record so it will check to see if the image exists. And if it does, it should update our database. So let's go look at Manage Catalog. And click on The Princess Bride. And all I should have to do at this point is click Save. And it will make the request to our back end and attempt to find a poster for the movie Bride and update the database if it does. So let's click Save. Great, no errors. Let's go look at our database. And there appears to be a value in there. Okay. So really, you would think at this point I could go to GraphQL and click on The Princess Bride and see my movie poster. And we're not going to. And we'll see why in a moment. No movie poster. So why not? I mean, I've added the necessary field to my GraphQL query. I'm returning it from my back end. It's all set up properly. Well, let me show you why this isn't working. So I'll go to Visual Studio Code, and it's not in the front end. Let's go look at the back end. And I'm looking at movies-db, movies-db.go, the part where we're querying. And if you notice here, we made a change to the insert, to the update, and to the get methods, but we never did it to all. And back on our GraphQL.go, right here, the function movies_graphql, it populates this variable movies by calling the all method. So let's go back to the all method and just fix this. It's really easy. After updated add in my query, I'll put coalesce, and if you don't do this, you'll get null errors from the database driver for Go. And if it exists, use poster, otherwise use an empty string. So I added that to my query, and it's the last thing I'm adding there. So let me come down here and put ampersand movie.poster, and then a comma. Now I'll open my terminal, stop my application, start my application, and go back to my web browser, go back to GraphQL, and click on The Princess Bride. And there is the poster. Perfect. So literally, all I have to do now is resave every entry in my database. And it should, if it can, find the poster and display it like this. So that was pretty straightforward. A lot of steps necessary to make this take place, and a lot of error checking, but not that difficult. So there you go.